Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Education is important, but not that bullshit, abstract, and theoretical education. You want useful, relevant, and actionable lessons that will help you succeed in life. So that's what we do. It's your boy Pham, your host, and now let's hack your education together. Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Today we have Cassidy Williams as our featured guest. Cassidy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Cassidy, you have wrote a fantastic guide that has helped dozens of people land tech jobs, and you yourself have had 5 different internships throughout college and graduated with 10 job offers. I would love for you to just give a brief introduction for those who are not familiar with the work about who you are and what you're up to right now.
Sure. So, like you said, I'm Cassidy Williams, and I'm a software engineer and a developer evangelist at Clarifai. Clarifai is a deep learning and advanced image recognition startup, and I've actually only been here about a month. Before that, I was out of school and I was working at Venmo as the same thing, developer evangelist and software engineer, and just decided to look for a change. And I've been doing lots and lots of interviewing of different people, so I kind of know that end of it. And then I also did a ton of interviews coming out of school, and so that's kind of how I put this whole guide together.
Well, you interviewed other people?
Yeah.
For Venmo?
Mm-hmm. And
Wow.
here at Clarifai too.
Really? Wait, what's your role specifically? I thought only like HR people do that, but I guess I'm wrong.
Oh, no. Engineers interview a ton as well.
Dude, that's pretty awesome. So you know both sides of the story, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. I know exactly what to look for.
That's great, because like the reason I wanted to feature you today is because I help people find internships, but so many people were asking me for tech jobs in which I have no knowledge in. So I knew I had to bring on an expert to help me out. But before we get into that, the thing that threw me off was that people who work in like career services tell me that there are more jobs than applicants. Like there is more demand for tech jobs than ever before. Like if that's the case, I'm just curious, like why is landing a tech internship or job so difficult for like most people?
And that is a huge unanswered question of everyone.
Oh,
And
okay.
honestly, it's just because, yes, there's tons and tons of jobs. Like there's one friend of mine who just started looking for a job recently, and over the past 2 weeks, I think he's had 30 interviews at least.
Whoa.
Yeah. And there's tons of demand, but at the same time, there's a lot of demand for certain skills. And a lot of people aren't very good at showing their skills, and some people are, some people aren't, and sometimes they have the skills and they just need to portray them correctly. And I think that's just what it is, because I know so many people who have perfect GPAs and amazing internships and that sort of thing, but when it comes to interviewing, they're a little nervous, and it's very understandable to be nervous in a tech interview, but it's all about kind of confidence and really selling your skills.
Got it. So for this episode, I want you to take me on this journey of me being like a non-technical guy to getting like a tech internship if I wanted to go that route. But just out of curiosity, before we do that, what would be the most important thing in the job search? Is it, like you said, skills? Is that like the most important thing that you should like focus on throughout this tech job search?
Skills, yes. There's a lot of different things that you have to take into consideration, but obviously skills is part of it, because a company is buying your skills when they hire you.
Okay.
So definitely having the skills, but it's also building your skills, selling your skills, your attitude about your skills, how you present them, that sort of thing.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay, so if you were to coach me, what would be like my first step? Would it be like my resume? Would it be like searching? What would be like that initial thing?
Assuming that you're technical or non-technical and wanting to be technical.
Assuming that I'm a little bit technical, like I have some skills, but I'm not like, awesome as you. But I want to get, I'm a junior in college and I want to like finally get a tech internship.
Sure. Okay. So assuming you're semi-technical, the first thing that you want to do is your resume. And your resume, it's the sort of thing where so many people have made so many resumes, and so many engineers, so many recruiters, so many people have seen so many resumes out in full-time real world land, that you need to make yours look unique. And so one thing that I always tell people to do that really has nothing to do with skills or anything is to make your name big. Because there's so many people who just write their name in like 12-point Times New Roman, and then I don't look at your name as much, and it's fine, but you want people to remember who you are. And so if your name is big on the resume, your name is your heading, then that's the most important part because people will remember your name.
Okay.
Another thing definitely is to remove the objective. A lot of career centers always say, make sure you have an objective to get a tech internship. But the thing is, like, chances are if you're applying for an internship, we know you want an internship. Like, that's the whole point. And nobody ever actually reads an objective unless it's something entirely unusual. And I mean, I've seen some very unusual objectives. I'm like, okay, I get it.
What is one that you've seen?
Someone said, I want to be a technologist now, but in the end, I really want to have a chicken farm. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for telling me. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if you really want to include something unusual, sure, stick that objective in there. But if you're doing something typical, like I want a full-time job as a software engineer or something like that, or I want an internship for tech, you don't need an objective.
Got it.
Also, keep your resume to a single page because there's so many resumes that are just so long. And I mean, it's great that you've accomplished so many things, but nobody's going to read that entire resume. I was actually talking to a recruiter recently where she said that she actually is suspicious of people who have very, very long resumes because she thinks, oh, they must be hiding something among all the text that they don't want me to see or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I would assume for like tech jobs, like they would have so many skills and so many projects that they would want to like showcase it all. I'm assuming that's like the opposite though, huh?
Yeah, and I totally understand wanting to show off all of your projects, all of your events, all of your hackathons, all of your clubs and that sort of thing, but also be reasonable because when someone's going through a ton of resumes in a batch, they don't want to go through a 5-page resume. They just want to have your one pager to see, okay, what's the most important about this person.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
And then go ahead. I knew you had a list, so I wanted to let you finish that first.
Sure. So next, remove irrelevant information. If you're looking for a tech internship of some kind, like if you don't have much work experience, sure, keep everything you have. But after you have some experience, even if it's just like TAing for a class or like being a computer lab assistant, something related to tech, you can take off babysitting and lifeguarding on your resume. There's so many people I know who keep that or say that they served ice cream at Dairy Queen. Yeah, that sort of thing. And like, yes, that's work experience and that's great, but that doesn't tell us anything about your technical skills.
But I'm just curious because like for those who are just starting off with like getting tech internships, they might not have like technical experience at all.
Yeah, and I've totally seen that, and we definitely don't hold that against a person because oftentimes if you really want to get a tech internship, and let's just say you're a freshman, we don't expect you to have a ton of skills and you expect to learn a lot on the job, and that's fine, and then include it there. But then if you start getting a little bit later down the line and you want to have more of a technical internship, but you don't have as much experience, that's when I would put less emphasis on your work experience and more emphasis on your side projects and events that you go to. And that kind of comes into the building your skills section that I was talking about.
Cool. Okay, a lot of information for the resume. Sweet.
Yeah.
Don't you know anything else? Like I feel like when they look at my resume, when you look at a resume, what are some of the things that pop out to you that you want to see? I'm assuming it's experience and skills, right?
Right. Experience and skills. I do appreciate seeing extracurriculars, even if they're not entirely relevant. I really like seeing them because that tells me that you have a life. And I mean, even if it's just tech related, it kind of shows that you're well-rounded and you can take on a lot of things. Because if someone just has school information, but they don't have any clubs or they don't have any work experience or anything like that, that shows me that you either haven't taken the initiative to try something else or you're not very good at time management, that sort of thing. And I don't mean to be harsh, but that's like the first thing that comes to mind. I want to be able to see as much as I can about you. And if it means that you're in marching band, I know that marching band is crazy time consuming. And so the fact that you can maintain this GPA or this job or these skills and do marching band, I'm impressed.
Oh, wow. So, but that's okay if it's not tech related, but being a barista or babysitter is not like recommended. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with lifeguarding or babysitting or baristaing or anything like that, but you want to show you want to show your best well-rounded self. And so extracurricular, that's something that's not related to work as much. That's something that you enjoy doing. Work is something that you do to build your skills. And so they have different roles, and that's why I say, like, if you have a bunch of irrelevant stuff, that's okay, because that shows what you're interested in. And
Okay.
when you put your work experience, that shows what you've learned and what you can do and what you're capable of.
Cool. All right, awesome. So the next step in your guide is a cover letter. And I just want to ask you, as a recruiter or as someone who interviews people, how often do people give you a cover letter with their resume?
A grand majority of the time.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I really like reading cover letters. I know that once it starts getting into really, really big bashes, I start to skim a little more than read in depth. And I know some people don't read them at all, but I always recommend including some kind of cover letter, because it's kind of your written sales pitch of yourself. Your resume summarizes everything for you, but your cover letter is a more complete and personal and professional description of you. And it kind of explains who you are, where you're coming from, why you're interested in the company, and show that that you did research the company, what you can bring to the table, when you're available to start, when they can contact you, how they can reach you, that sort of information.
Awesome. And yeah, and you have a great like basic template basic template on your guide, which I'll definitely link to in the show notes. Okay. But cool. So I have my resume. I have it edited and perfected. I have my cover letter. What's next? Do I have to find a company for that cover letter to go to, or should I focus on other things? What's the next step?
Well, if you're ready to start interviewing, then now it's just time to start applying. Now, first of all, I do want to touch on your attitude. Now, when you're starting to reach out to all kinds of different companies and everything, it's very easy to start feeling down on yourself if you don't hear back from some, or an interview starts to go poorly, or if you just start comparing yourself to someone who might have gotten a job right away. And I just want to emphasize that everybody can get a job, and just because you can't find one that's right for you right away, that's totally okay. And just the fact that you're interested in tech and the fact that you have some skills to bring to the table, you are very smart and you're in this field for a reason. And just like continue to be grateful and gracious and as confident as you can without being arrogant about yourself when you're presenting yourself, because companies will really appreciate that. They see that as a real passion for what you're doing. And just it's nice to see someone who is like confident in their skills and not saying and not being like too cocky about it, and just kind of just being really nice and friendly about it. Just kind of bring that attitude of warmth that you want to bring to the workplace, and that you want to be treated with, because people really appreciate that.
I love it. And in your guide, you want to emphasize you're brilliant. It's in bold. It's great.
Yeah, and it's something that I have to tell people all the time when I'm mentoring someone or coaching someone on a particular interview, because it's so easy to feel down. I've been in that place plenty of times before, when an interview doesn't go well, or when you see someone having a ton of more opportunities than you do. And it's very important to realize that, yes, you can feel down, but don't let it get you down for too long, because you'll get right back up.
Cool.
Sure. So let's talk
So
about your actual skills and bring
Sure.
down two companies. So you are about to go to all of these different companies and everything. And we talked about your resume. Make sure that your skills are what you're comfortable in writing in. And sometimes when you're applying to larger companies, they have just resume parsers that just look for specific things on a resume. So if you've written anything in a language before, put it on there, even if you're not super comfortable with it. That will get you in the door. Now, if you've only ever done like Hello World or something in a given language, don't put that. But if you've written like a mini project or something, definitely put it on there, even if it's not your favorite language, because that will get you in somewhere.
But for
Go ahead.
those who like, for example, like they're not that familiar in a certain skill, but they put it on there anyways, and the resume filters gets their resume on top of like the pile because of that skill. When you go into the interview, isn't it kind of weird if they ask you like for that specific skill and you're not that knowledgeable in it, but there's a little bit? You know where I'm
That's
coming from?
that's true. There's definitely a fine balance there. Now, the way that I offset that is on my resume, I had different like meters saying like super proficient in like Java and JavaScript and different
Oh,
things like that. Semi proficient or still learning Ruby, iOS, that sort of thing.
oh, so,
And so that's kind of how I organized my own just to kind of deal with that, because if it's on your resume, a company has a right to ask you about it. So
got it.
that's why I was saying don't just do hello world languages that you know, but definitely include them kind of in the order that you're most comfortable with. That's kind of how I look at it. Where if someone lists JavaScript first, I know that that's their primary language, or Python or whatever
Okay.
like that.
But what you do with your resume is you have kind of like a meter. Is that right? Like
Yeah.
high skills or like very skilled or not
Right.
as skilled?
Yeah,
Cool.
and I've seen some people where they don't include like a visual meter or anything. They'll just say from most to least proficient or something like that, just so that way someone knows. Oh well, if Swift is last on their resume, they probably don't know it as well as they know. I don't know, Java, Haskell,
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay. Good to know.
Mhm.
All right. Back to skills. Go ahead.
Okay, so when you're about to do a technical interview, let's just say that you've reached out to a ton of companies and you're about to actually start getting these interviews. They kind of have free reign of what they're going to ask you, but different types of companies tend to ask different types of questions. Now, if you're at a smaller company, like a startup level or anything, chances are they'll ask you very practical questions about like a particular framework or a particular project you worked on or that sort of thing. A mid-sized company, they might talk more about like architectural problems where they ask you about some kind of data structure or something, or how you would set up a database and how you would help it scale a little bit more, and like how would you link IDs many to many, that just like buzzwords like that. And then when you're at a larger company, they'll more likely talk to you about data structures. So things like linked list, queues, binary trees, stacks, heaps, graphs, sorting algorithms, time complexities, that sort of thing. Now, it definitely depends on the company. These are complete generalizations, but those are the things that you should be ready for.
Got it. Okay. So if I wanted to do a startup, those like skills you mentioned are the ones I should focus on. Whereas if I wanted to apply to like Google or Facebook or even any other big company, I should focus on like data structures and all the other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like every single large company that I interviewed with, it was all purely like sorting questions or recursion questions or just things like that that are very like computer science theory oriented rather than like practical language focused, because big companies, they can afford to take on someone who doesn't know the specifics of everything because they have really good training and they make sure that you really learn a lot on the job. Meanwhile, a smaller company like a startup, they're looking for someone who can really contribute a ton of work to their products, and they need someone who does know what they're doing so that way they can get stuff done, because
Wow.
they're in a growing stage. Meanwhile, a large company, they have a growing stage and they have tasks that need to be done by someone more junior because more senior people don't want to take on a certain task or something like that, or senior people just want to mentor someone and teach someone. It's kind of different goals for different kinds of companies.
Got it. So in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned about people having a hard time selling their skills or showing like their value to other companies. Um,
Mhm.
Knowing all these skills, knowing what kind of company you want to apply for, I guess how would you sell your skills essentially to the employer?
Sure. So, assuming that you're on the phone with someone or you're talking to someone at an event or something like that, as you're selling your skills, you want to try to be as specific as possible and tell exactly what you did on a particular project or internship or hackathon or different thing like that. Tell them how you contributed, how long was the project, what languages you used, the outcome of the project. How you used a particular language, what you learned, that sort of thing. You really want to just
I see.
explain your skills as much as you can so they know what they're getting. Because if you just say like, I built a website once, or I'm the webmaster for a club website, or just things like that, instead of explaining, oh, I maintained this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript website on the front end, and then I helped kind of build out some of the back end and uploaded it onto school servers and maintained it there. So something like that. Like you want to be as in depth as possible so they know exactly what you did, because there's such thing as a webmaster for a club, for example, that just updates like a WordPress blog post, and that's how they update the website. But then there's some webmasters that actually are working on the development of the website and the maintenance of it and that sort of thing. And so you want to be as specific as possible when you're explaining it.
I think the first webmaster isn't a real webmaster, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's kind of like me. I'm just kidding. Well, okay, cool. So you have all these different skills, and you show your skills by showing the projects and all the things you've worked on and all the outcomes that come out. Okay, cool. So I have my resume, I have my cover letter, I have my skills, I have a good attitude. What's next? Is it finally the job search?
You really have got to start your job search now. Now, like you'll definitely run into you're going to run into career fairs all the time. There's meetups all over the country. There's hackathons that are popping up here and there. There's conferences all over the place. So those are definitely the big events that you'll hit up. But there's so many other options. Like you could just go through your school's resource center. You could check out Eventbrite to just check out events nearby, that sort of thing. There's so many different sources. And I definitely recommend trying to talk to people as much as you can rather than applying online, because a person can submit you as some kind of recommendation, and that automatically puts you to the top of a pile of a resume pile, rather than applying online and then they'll get to you as soon as you can. When someone knows who you are, that's a huge leg up in anything.
Well, I know there's a lot of different places for internships, like hackathons, meetups, conferences, career fairs. But I want to ask you like a bigger picture question. Like for me, if I wanted to apply and get like the most, like if my goal is to learn the most and like meet a lot of people who are similar as me, I just want to grow my internship. And there's so many options. I guess how do you determine which internship to go for, which one to like not go for? I guess for my goal.
So that definitely depends on you and like specific goals. Like some people, they say, oh, I want to get to know the Silicon Valley tech scene, or I want to get to know the New York tech scene, or smaller tech scenes like Chicago or Austin or Seattle, that sort of thing. And so like sometimes it's location based, sometimes it's people based or program based or language based. So that all depends on you. What I usually do and what I did was I applied for every single thing I could find. I just kind of applied constantly. And then once you actually have offers in your hand, that's when you want to start narrowing down what you want based on your goals. And like I did it the nerdy way, where I made a whole spreadsheet and added like weights to certain things on which was most important to me and pros and cons and stuff. You don't have to do that. But I recommend just applying to anything that you would say, yeah, I could work there, because it's good to have more than one offer in your hand. Because if you do have competing offers or anything, you could even take that to the negotiation table and say, hey, I really like you guys, but this company is actually offering me like subsidized housing, or this company is offering me relocation, or this company is just offering a higher salary. And then you can kind of use that to negotiate your way to a little bit of a bonus there.
Cool. Got it. And you mentioned earlier about really trying to talk to people, because people are the ones that will help you get like your resume to the top of the pile. I guess how would for a tech internship, or to get a tech internship, how would you specifically go about networking and trying to get referrals to push you to the top of the pile?
Sure. So I put this in the guide, and so I'll kind of go over that and just talk about it a little bit more in detail. But first, obviously, when you're approaching someone, you'll introduce yourself. It's very obvious, but there have been so many times, even I was at a tech event 2 nights ago, and it's happened again, where people don't say their names, or they don't say where they work or anything like that. And then it's like pulling teeth trying to get information out of them. Like they just kind of slide into the conversation. You want to introduce yourself, and then if they don't introduce themselves right away, ask their name, ask what they do, that sort of thing. So anyway, introduce yourself. Say, hi, my name is Cassidy. I work for whatever, or I go to this school.
I like
Then
doing
kind of just
this.
make small talk with, yeah.
Yeah.
Then just kind of make small talk with them. Now you don't necessarily know who you'll be encountering. Some of the most important people I've met are just like VCs who actually don't know much about tech, but they know about business. And I've met even real estate agents who happen to have a cousin who works at Google, or just different things like that.
Hmm.
So kind of make as much small talk as you can, but like really kind of try to talk about yourself, but not in a like, let's take this conversation back to me sort of way. If you know what I mean, where
Yeah.
there's always those people where you're saying like, oh, I bought a new couch. And you're just like, you should see my couch. My couch is the best. Like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of just get important details out in the open, so that way you can remember each other. Like they make sure that they remember you as the real tech person who wants a job, or the really funny tech person who's starting to look for an internship, or just different things like that. The tech kid from Iowa, that sort of thing. Just make sure that you're memorable and that you can remember some kind of information about you.
In real life though, like how would that play out? Would you say like, hey Cassidy, and then we have some small talk, and then I would talk about how my dream is to work at Google or Venmo, for example, and then how would that play out in real life?
So it's a lot easier than one would think. And when you're thinking about it, you're just like, okay, how am I supposed to sell my skills and make small talk and be polite? um, it's really just saying, like usually a small talk conversation starts as like, oh, so how did you get to know this event? Or do you know the person who's running this event? That sort of thing. Oh, that's super cool. I know them from this. I was actually planning on trying to meet some people to work on a project with. I'm trying to come up with this idea. Or you say like,
Ah.
oh, I met a student at this school. Yeah, I'm actually studying this right now. I'm taking this one class that's so fun. I'm learning about how to do this. Just kind of bring it up as smoothly as you possibly can without
Mm.
forcing the information. Like, yes, this is my GPA. Please hire me. That sort of thing.
Do you
Just
know anyone here?
yeah, just kind of ease it into conversation without forcing it as much as you can. And you don't have to talk about yourself the whole time, obviously. You might be in a group of like 4 people as you're all mingling and just getting to know each other. But the most important thing at the end of this conversation not only is that they know about you at least a little bit, but that you can exchange contact information.
Mhm.
Because if you have no way of finding this person you're talking to again, or if they don't have some way of finding you, then that kind of networking moment was kind of wasted.
Ah.
Give them some kind of business card or email address, Twitter handle, anything, or get theirs at least, so that way you can follow up. Now, following up is like the most important thing that I can tell anybody, more than the resume stuff, more than the cover letter stuff. Always follow up with people.
Mhm.
Um, Whether you just email someone or add them on LinkedIn or tweet them, just say something that, like, it was nice to meet you. And then just kind of maintain contact a little bit. Just say,
Yeah.
keep in touch. It was great to meet you. Because then let's just say 2 weeks later, you say, hey, just wanted to know how you were doing. It was great meeting you again the previous week. It makes it easier and easier to maintain
Mhm.
contact. And as you maintain contact, those people will be great resources for you. You could be a great resource for them at some point. Sometimes some of the people that I've networked with, they're VCs that I'm like, okay, someday I want to make sure that I can take advantage of what they can offer, their great network or whatever. But sometimes they say, hey, do you know any other students who are interested in this? Or, hey, I'm looking for someone who can help with this. Or do you know
Mhm.
anybody at this school? Sometimes it's really a two-way street of you helping each other, and you have to look at it that way, not just of this person can help me climb the corporate ladder someday.
Yeah.
Because as you maintain this relationship, you might get a mentor out of it, you might get a mentee out of it, you might get someone who will refer you to your next job. And it's very important to continue following up and just staying in contact with these people.
I love it. I'm a big fan of networking. I'm just curious about your 5 internships. Did you get those through networking? Did you get those through job boards? How did that come about?
Sure. So my first one, my freshman year, my first summer one was through the career fair at my school. And honestly, my freshman year, I didn't think I'd get an internship because I didn't know very much. And so I was not nervous at all, because I was just like, oh, I probably won't get one. I'll just kind of YOLO this. And I guess that was perceived as confidence, and it worked out. So
Sweet.
my freshman year, I started a part-time internship throughout the school year, doing software testing, and then at the same time, was I was just like in school and everything. And that summer, I did General Mills, and General Mills was really cool because that was very exploratory for me as I was trying to figure out how should I go about certain problems? What do I want to know? What do I want to learn? What kind of tech do I like? And it was also fun because it was a food company, so I ate all the time.
Nice.
And then my next internship, which was going to be my sophomore summer, that one was more focused on networking with people in my school. And I was talking with my advisors more, with professors more, with the Career Center more, just kind of getting to know people there, just because I didn't know a lot of people outside of school. And then I also went to a conference called the Grace Hopper Conference, which is this big women in computing conference. And through all of this networking, I ended up getting a few internship offers and a few interviews, and I ended up going with Microsoft. And so my sophomore summer, I did Microsoft, and that one was definitely through talking with my advisor. And then a recruiter contacted my advisor saying, "Hey, do you have any students who are really great who want an internship?" And she referred them to me because I had talked with her so much about trying to come up with like some kind of internship for the next summer. So that worked out. And then I met a ton of people at Microsoft, and that one was really me refining my technical skills and figuring out exactly what I wanted to do. That was where I went to my first hackathon, all kinds of stuff. It was very exciting working on technical things, really hardcore technical things there. Oh, and I guess I didn't mention, I studied abroad my sophomore year as well, my second semester sophomore year. And while I was there, I was remotely doing some project management for the National Center for Women in IT. And again, that was just networking for from different conferences and stuff that I ended up doing that.
It's like after you get your first foot in the door, it's just a bigger network, and then you get another foot in the door,
Exactly.
bigger network.
Exactly. Like
boom,
all
boom.
of the relationships you build can last so long and can help you so much. And so after sophomore year, I decided that the next summer I really wanted to try out Silicon Valley, and I wanted to try a tech company that was more specialized. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I really liked Microsoft, but it was very, very kind of generic, and you were just kind of in a specialized area or whatever. I wanted to go area of the company, and I wanted to go to a specific company that was specialized and in Silicon Valley. And so that was a lot more networking. I started to go to a lot more hackathons and everything. And that year, my sister actually started going to school with me as well. We started to network even more with NC Wit, with the Grace Hopper Conference, with all kinds of different stuff. We ended up actually speaking at the White House that year. It just kind of all started building up. And I ended up interviewing at the Grace Hopper Conference with Intuit. And that was they make QuickBooks Online, they make TurboTax, they make Mint.com, all that financial software. And so I was like, okay, this sounds like it'll be a cool company. It's not too small, it's not too big. It'll be really interesting. And so I ended up in Silicon Valley that next summer. And that summer, I just kind of called it my summer of networking, where I just tried to meet as many people as I possibly could. And so I went to hackathons almost every single weekend. I went to meetups every single week. I did a hackathon on a plane. Actually, that was a flight from San Francisco to London.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was. I was just kind of doing as much as I possibly could to meet as many people as I possibly could, and so many people were people where I got their business card at one event, and then I ended up hacking with them at a hackathon at the next event. Sweet. And I ended up interviewing with their team at a different company when I saw them next, that sort of thing. And so it was just kind of building up as much of a network as I possibly could.
You have an attitude of a champion.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
And then by the time my summer was over, I was starting to interview for full time. And so I just kind of interviewed constantly the first few months of senior year, because I wanted to get a job and then just be done with it. And so I didn't have one weekend at school for like the first 6 weeks of classes, because I was always either at a hackathon or interviewing, or both. And yeah, I ended up getting a bundle of job offers, and then I decided by mid-October, and then I kind of just cruised for the rest of senior year.
Wow. I want to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
That's absolutely insane. I love the ambition. I love the passion for just like getting out there and meeting people. That's so awesome. And Cassidy, I want to respect you and your time, but I have one last question.
Sure.
If so I have my resume, I have my cover letter, I have some skills, and I'm kind of networking a little bit. If I had to devote, if I had only like 30 minutes each day to commit to like job searching, or maybe I had like 3 hours a week or 4 hours a week, what should I be doing like every single day, or what should I be doing every single week in order to get closer and closer to like landing a tech internship?
Coding, hands
Ooh.
down. One thing that more and more companies are looking for are GitHub profiles that are pretty robust. Now, like instead of looking at your LinkedIn, which they do look at it, they look at your GitHub and they look at the code that you're writing. And they look to see if you've improved in your coding skills over time. So if you're worried about your skills now, don't worry about it. They'll look at your most recent projects. I know one person I know a few people now who decided they're just going to code as much as they can every single day, even if it's just for a half hour a day. And they just have a GitHub streak going. One friend of mine, she has like 50 days as of right now coding on GitHub. My senior year, I think my record was 128 days.
Wow.
Just like code every single day, even if it's just a few lines or just practicing writing a Perl script or trying to understand functional programming with Scheme. Just little projects here and there to build your skills, because even if it's just writing something simple, that is improving your logical thinking, that is improving your coding ability, that is helping you code faster. Just code as much as you possibly can.
Wow. Cassidy, this has been absolutely awesome. Where can the listeners find more about you and what you're up to?
Sure. Well, you can find me on Twitter, Cassidoo, Cassidoo. That's my username for almost everything. So Twitter, GitHub, my website is cassidoo.co. If you want to contact me, that's GitHub, Twitter, and my website probably have almost all the information that you could ever need. And yeah, or you could just Google Cassidy Williams. There's a Scooby-Doo character that was named that, and so sometimes she beats me in search results, but I'll be in there somewhere.
You'll find Cassidy. Well,
Yeah.
this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I wanted to ask if you had any last words for people, anyone technical or non-technical who is about to start the internship search. Like, do you have any last words or pieces of advice for them before they start?
Yes, I have a quote, and I know this is very cheesy, but this is my favorite quote, and it's very true. And it's a quote from Helen Keller, and it's, "One can never consent to creep when one feels an impulse to soar." And if you have any inkling to soar, to get a job, to really refine your skills, to put yourself out there, you can totally soar. You can totally do it. And just find what makes you tick and follow that and follow your gut, because that's going to lead you to some great opportunities.
That's amazing. Cassidy, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
It was great talking to you.
Thanks for listening to Outside of the Classroom. Go ahead and go to www.outsideoftheclassroom.com/podcast to see all the show notes and resources we talked about today. And feel free to reach out to me for any feedback on the podcast, any guests you want to